Hello, my name is Peter Parf. Welcome to New Brit Workshop and this workshop notes video number 19. I'm actually doing some demonstrations at a couple of shows in the not too distant future, which I'll tell you about in a minute. So I've made up this sign. It's a sort of New Brit Workshop, it's me, and I've put some end pieces on here, but I've got to trim them off. I thought I'd just show you the easy way to do it. And what you need to get is one of those cheap and cheerful Japanese saws. Now, ordinarily, saws will have a set on them. That means the teeth go one way and then the other as you go down, and it helps to clear the sawdust as you're sawing. The only problem with that is that those teeth then will mark an adjacent surface if you were trying to cut right up against the surface, as I'm about to do now. If you buy the right sort of Japanese saw, they have no set on them, and therefore you can rub this against the surface and it won't scratch it. Now, if you want to saw against something and the saw you've got does have set on, then get yourself an old credit card or something like that, put it against the surface, and then hold your saw against the credit card as you saw. Now be careful when you get to the end, because you don't want to break this off and ruin your woodwork. And there we have that, and that is just slightly proud of the surface, but by doing that we protected that surface. Now, as I said, with the right saw you will not damage the surface at all. And because this is the right saw, I'm going to now demonstrate how I would normally use it at this end without any protection at all. Now, in order to do this properly, one needs to keep the saw flat against the surface here. If you don't do that, then you can damage the surface, and of course then you wouldn't have a flush cut either. And as you get to the very end, again, be very careful. And there that is. And I hope you can see that there's been no damage to that surface. And now just a very light sand will clean that up nicely. Now, it is important to remember with these saws is that you cut on the pull. That's why it's called a pull saw. If you try and cut as you push, then the saw will bend and you could damage the wood, all sorts of things. So you're only trying to cut on the pull stroke. And there we go. And another use of credit card is that you can cut them into strips, as I've done with this one here. And I've got a little bit of a gap in my rubbishy old bit of woodwork here, so I'm just going to put a bit of filler in there. And you can use the end of a credit card to do that. And it actually makes quite a good little spreader. So that's that little repair done. I'll sand it off once it's dry. Now, I mentioned shows. Now, the first one, when I'm actually appearing as a sort of guest visitor, is at Axminster on the 21st of September 2018, in case you're watching this video next year or the year after. It's an open day at Axminster, and it's by ticket only, and you can get a ticket by going online, visit the Axminster website and do all the biz. And the proper name for it is the Axminster Open House. 21st of September in Axminster in Devon. Now, this isn't at the shop in Axminster, it is at their warehouse and offices, which is on the Waycroft Industrial Estate. Very easy to find, and it's going to be quite an eye-opener for anyone who's ever done any business with Axminster. Now, this is the Vestal Catalog. It's actually last year's. A lot of people like a paper catalogue they can have in their hand, and when Axminster years ago decided to stop doing theirs, a lot of people were a little bit disappointed. Well, it's coming back, and it's coming back in October, and it will be available even for overseas customers, and so go to the website and you'll find out the details. I'm just putting the finishing touches to this top for a workshop stool. And it's not for me, I've already got one, as you probably know. And my top was done a while ago, and it's made out of bamboo. This is a piece of solid oak, and it's got U-Bit Workshop there, and this sort of image of me using a router a while ago. Now, if you're going to the North of England Woodworking Power Tools Show, which is in Harrogate, it's the 16th to the 18th of November 2018, and it's at the Great Yorkshire Showground in Harrogate. And if you buy a Parf Guide System on any of those 3 days, then your name will go into a hat and a draw will be made after the show, and this top will be sent to the winning person. And so buy a Parf Guide System and you have a chance. If you're the only person buying one, you're going to get this. You'll have a chance of getting a nice top for your workshop stool. And just to prove that this is the actual one, if you look very carefully, there was a little bit of a split there which I've filled. By the time that that's finished with a bit of Osmo or something, that won't really show, but you can check that this is the actual one. Now, have you ever bought tools and accessories that come in sort of plastic containers, not unlike this one? And often you've got large flat areas which are very useful, and you can utilize them for things like this. If you've got some form of sustain or whatever, it's nice to have a little plastic cover that goes in front of whatever it is that you've put in there. And so you can cut the plastic to the right size from this material, and lo and behold, you've got a smart looking label on your lovely toolbox. Well, it's time for me to put a bit of Osmo on these bits and pieces now. Whilst I've got this in my hand, I did this using my X-Carve CNC, and I used V-Carve Pro to do this. But Vectric, who've kindly given me an annual sort of rolling developer's license for V-Carve Pro, said, no, we want to switch you onto our top of the range product, which is called Aspire. So over the next few months, I'm going to be teaching myself how to use Aspire, which is for 3D work. It looks complicated, but I don't think actually when you get into the nitty-gritty it is. But it's a much more expensive package than V-Carve Pro. So I'm very lucky to be allowed to try it, and perhaps in a few months' time I'll be able to show you what I've been able to achieve with that. In the meantime, thank you very much for watching. Take care. Bye-bye.